thank you. Welcome to another one of our roundtable conversations. We're sort of in a period. February, of course, is Black History Month, and the conversations this month and on either side are with Black history in mind. Last month we talked about mentorship, but we were sort of centered with the mentorship in Black and Brown communities, and that was led by Greg Lewis, who's on the corner left of my Hollywood Square. And this month we're going to be talking about parenting, a universal, but also centered around the questions of race and negotiating race and racism as a parent. And in March, it's Women's History as well, and we're going to be talking about reading, but also at the intersection of race and thinking about with an alumna who's going to be talking about her experience running a book club that was focused on Black women and reading political books, and so thinking about the intersection of race and politics and reading as a political act. But today we're talking about parenting, and the hope was that this would be a student-led conversation that would, I don't know if we have enough students for that to be exclusively true, but a community-led conversation. And to kind of get us started, we looking at a book that I'm holding up now, and a quote from the description of the book.
What is the book, Kate?
The book is called "We Live for the We: The Political Power of Black Motherhood." And let me see if I can find that quote. I came to read this book.
I'll find it.
Great, thank you. Okay. I came to read this book because of my own sort of beginning to be a parent and looking to the Black community to think about what it is to parent a Black child, a biracial child. And it was just, I thought, a beautiful book about parenting, but also about trying to be intentional in society. This woman is making decisions about what education for her daughter, and therefore thinking about the education system and religion, and thinking about religion and culture and all sorts of kind of questions of navigating society in general, but on the cusp of thinking about parenting a Black girl in that case. And so I have it here. The quote that I was thinking could kick off this conversation is just about describing this book and how Danny McLean sets out to understand how to raise her daughter in what she as a Black woman knows to be an unjust, even hostile society. Black women are more likely to die during pregnancy or birth than any other race. Black mothers must stand before television cameras, telling the world that their slain children were human beings. What then is the best way to keep fear at bay and raise a child so she lives with dignity and joy? That's the beginning of an invitation for a conversation. So I'd love to leave it to folks to bring us into conversation. I'm going to call on you, Adrian, if that's okay, because I know I can pick on you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry. I just, I got on a few minutes late. So, well, the question is, what was the question you asked?
There's no real question. This is meant to be a conversation about parenting, and the quote that I just read can be inspiring and guiding, and something to respond to, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
The quote is also in the chat if people want to look back at it.
Thank you for that.
Okay. I guess what kind of parent I am and what kind of parent I want to be. Both my kids, I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son. They're biracial. My husband's Italian. I did have a few conversations with my daughter. She experienced, which I think is sad. She experienced kids picking on her because her hair was different. She told me that they said her eyes looked different, which I don't know. So there was a point where she didn't want to go to school. She kept telling me she had a stomach ache. And then I finally came to realize that it was because, every day they're touching her. My daughter is the only Black student in her class. And it bothered me a little bit. And then I'm trying to figure out, like, where is this coming from? Like, how would kids in the second grade be so, I don't know, to make another kid feel away? You would experience, I would think that you would experience that as you got older, but so my husband and I, we just sit down and we just try to tell my daughter that, you have to accept who you are. Because there was a point where she wanted blonde hair and blue eyes. She goes, Mommy, maybe if I just change my hair color, they'll leave me alone and not ask me about my hair. I want my hair straight. She has curly hair and they always touch on her hair. Why is your hair curly? Why does it look like this? So I'm trying to, I do the best that I can as a mom to just teach my daughter to accept everything about her, whether it's her hair, her skin complexion, just whatever it is. Every day I'm telling her, like, you're beautiful. Like, I buy a lot of Black author books. That there's a book called The Skin That I'm In, or there's one about loving my hair. And I feel like she's only going to get that at home. That confidence she have to learn at home. Where these kids are getting their thing there from, my husband and I, we're clashing because I feel it's from the parents and he's telling me it's not. He goes, I can't see parents teaching kids, to mistreat other kids. I don't think that they're purposely doing it, but I just feel like I teach my daughter, if you see somebody with a disability, let's say with in a wheelchair or something, you don't stare at them. I always tell her, listen, they're special. That means, they're a special individual. You don't stare at them. So I just figured maybe their parents are not teaching them. If a kid don't look like you, does it make it right for you to touch their hair or make, ask questions or make them feel uncomfortable? So it bothers me, like I said, as she goes through this. I'm sure she's going to continue to go through this as she gets older. I'm just trying to be that kind of parent that's going to tell her you're going to be you no matter what. The world may accept you, they may not accept you. But at the end of the day, you're not going to change. You have to accept you and be who you are. Sometimes she goes, Mommy, you know what? I feel good. She does gymnastics. She's the only Black little girl on her gymnastics team. And she goes, I can stand here and nobody have to talk to me. I'm okay. And I love that when I feel a confidence coming. And then there's times when she goes, today was really rough. They were asking me questions. And so I'm just trying to find I guess a balance. I don't want her to be insecure about who God made her. Like, this is you. You got to accept this. You can't have somebody change you, especially something that I can't change. I'm not going to dye her hair blonde because they're telling me her hair doesn't look right. But I'm just trying to find ways to make my daughter continue doing what I'm doing, but also like to, she got ways to go. She's only in the third grade. Just started when she was in second grade. And it's mind-boggling that kids are doing this at such a young age. My question to you, like, where is this coming from?
Wilhelmina has her hand up, so we'll ask her to jump in, but I love one of the things that you're saying, which is about inner confidence and how do you raise people to be okay on the inside so that they can navigate a world that is always going to be weird and crazy.
Right.
Wilhelmina, did you have something you want to share?
Hi everyone. I'm so sorry for my voice. I did overnight and I just got home 8 o'clock and I'm up again. So so to what you were saying, I work in a hospital, like a ED, and I see so many things. So it was last week. I think on Sunday night, because I usually do nights. A little girl came in. She's like 13 years old, and she overdosed. She overdosed herself. The ENT brought her in, and the nurses, the doctors, everybody rushed over to her because like she overdosed with medication. I heard that her parents said that she said that she don't want her to go to school. She's a Mexican. Her dad is white, and her mom is Spanish, and she kind of like get that kind of complexion. I really don't know the reason why she really, really overdosed, but all the ENT and her parents could say was, oh, she didn't want her to go to school at all. She just didn't want to go to school. She had a fight with her parent, and every time, and she went to overdose. She wanted to like commit a suicide. So to what she's saying is something that can make a child to do something that they're not supposed to do. So I feel like being a black person, especially me, I'm African as well. I get picked on all the time. Sometimes some people don't want to be friends with me because I'm African or I'm black. I used to work at a facility where everybody's there is racist, including the managers and everybody. So it was like I feel it, I see it, and I knew it. So the only thing I can tell her right now concerning her daughter is, just keep motivating her, keep showing her black women, black power, like somebody who black, who's great right now, somebody who, who who she can look up to, like Michelle Obama. She's a she's a great woman. She was coming up probably, she got picked on, just keep motivating her, telling her some story, keep telling her she's beautiful. Her color is beautiful, it's the most beautiful color ever. Just keep motivating her, telling her, or encouraging her, telling her, encouraging, keep telling her things that, that she's beautiful, her color is beautiful, nothing is wrong with her. Nothing is wrong with her. Her color, baby, they love it. People won't hate you if they don't love something about you. Just keep motivating her, keep encouraging her. That's the only thing you can do because you don't want your kid thinking negative. Sometimes it make her kid like they start thinking on so many things. And especially if she's the black one in school, you just gotta keep, encouraging her. If you really want her to be there, maybe it's the school is good or it's a good school. Yeah. I have a daughter and she's 2, so right now I'm not facing that problem, but yeah, hopefully, when the times come, I'll be able to encourage her and keep telling her that she's beautiful.
Mhm. Right. Thank
I
you.
I am thinking, I have a daughter who's not quite 2 either as well, and kids who are her age touch her hair in the playground all the time. And I don't know, it's one thing. I had a parent once ask me if they could touch her hair, and I was like, no, but kids who are her same age do, right?
Mhm.
And so I think some things kind of begin with, that's just curiosity to touch somebody if you're 1.5, like whatever, you have no inhibitions, but not, so I think that's where the intervention comes in, right? It's like, what are their parents say? Are there, when they do that in the park when they're 3 years old, are the parents saying something about like respecting somebody else's body and space? And
Kids
Right.
will always be
probably
kids.
not.
Sometimes the parents don't really have to tell them, but kids are silly. Like they do silly things. They ask silly questions. Some of them will just ask random questions. Sometimes it's not the parent, sometimes it's the parent. Like some parents don't tell their kids, this is what it is, But some kids they just, ask questions and they want to know, they're curious. They want to know what is it, how is it, what it feel like. So it just all mess up and all together.
Right. So that's how maybe you get from 2 doing it innocently to 8 and not.
Right. I do understand that kids will be kids, but like you also saying there's a big age difference from a 2-year-old and an 8-year-old. At 8 years old, you know, if you can play Roblox and be, all in the computers and all, you can know when you're making a student feel uncomfortable. When my daughter's like, I just sit and at lunch, I just sit by myself because, I don't want to make eye contact with them. I don't want them to come over and ask me, and it's one thing to just, oh wow, but why is your hair like this? Why is your so when I don't know, when kids can tell when they're making someone feel away.
Mhm.
And like they gotta understand boundaries as well. That's when a parent should still, I've always instilled in my daughter since she was younger because I knew she was gonna, but you still tell, I understand kids have to be kids, but as a parent, if you're in a park, and my son, he's 3. He loves to run. He loves kids and be in their space. And I got to call him back and say, AJ, okay, listen, they want to play. If they want to play with you, they'll come over. It's okay. Wait for them to come get. I just don't say, okay, yeah, go run and play. You still, as a parent, have to
Right.
have boundaries when it comes to a kid. That's that learning phase. Now is the time. Act two, to start letting kids know, all right, listen, if somebody's eating or drinking something, don't go over and ask them, can you have some? I think it's a difference from, okay, that's not them being curious. That's my son saying, all right, listen, you can't do that. You're in the park, you can't drink behind somebody. We don't do that, you know? So I just, like I said, the conflict with my husband, he's saying the same thing. Yeah, I think they're just kids and they're curious, but I'm like, my daughter's not a science project. Don't be curious with her. If she's saying, please don't touch my hair, don't touch her hair. It's to the point where I have to go to the principal and say, listen, this is a problem that my daughter's crying wolf saying she's sick because she doesn't want to go to school. And then his thing was, well, maybe the boys, like, maybe they're just trying to make friends with her and they don't know how to do it. That wasn't good enough for me. It's like they're making excuses for children. And I don't think that excuses should be okay. It should be like, okay, listen, let me speak to the teacher, or let's figure out, there's boundaries, there's space. Everybody has that safe zone. You shouldn't,
I think your school is missing a teachable moment right there. And I'm going to say something and you're going to look at me and say, you are so full of baloney, but I was your daughter, right? So you're looking at me and you see an Italian woman, a white woman, but I moved from the Bronx, from a predominantly Italian enclave to a predominantly Irish enclave up in Dutchess County. And I am not kidding when I tell you I went to an elementary school, I was your daughter's age, 8, 9 years old, where recess was cut short because of potential for sunburn, right? That's how light complected these kids were that I went in. So if I showed you class pictures of myself with the other students from, I think it was second grade all the way up to about 5th or 6th, I think around 6th grade, we got our first Black student in there. You could pick me out without even looking. I was only the one with dark curly hair. I was the chubbier Italian kid, olive complected. If it was in the fall, I was very tan and very dark complected, where I felt like I didn't look like everybody else, and it was made very obvious. And there was a situation, it was picture day, and everybody, the teacher, they had the one brush or comb and was combing everybody's hair, and my hair was so thick and curly that it broke the comb. And the kids made fun of me for that forever. So in my head, as soon as I found out that you can chemically straighten your hair, I was chemically straightening my hair. When I was in high school, I was dyeing my hair red. I was wearing contacts. There was a lot of self-loathing that I didn't realize that that's what it was until I then started to become a sociologist, social psychologist, and I started to look at it and I'm like, because I didn't fit in and I always felt marginalized. I think that one of the things you are correct in allowing your daughter to set boundaries. Nobody has the right to touch a person unless they are given permission to do so. And the person that is touched has the right to say, back off, right? What the school is missing out on is making that a teachable moment, in that people are different and that's okay. Right. It's okay to ask if it's curiosity. And I firmly believe that, yes, it is coming from the parents. At that age, where else are they going to get it, right? So they can be socialized via the media, and that's there. But the parents, there's two ways. It's unintended and intended. The parents may intentionally tell the child, oh, this is the way things are, or unintended in that they don't have friends that look like your child. They don't interact with people like that. So it would be much more curiosity versus a racist element of it. Everything correctly, and you're supporting your daughter's self-esteem, and the role modeling is really important. Put in front of her those positive role models.
I thank you, Joanne. Let's go on to Lamont, because we have a couple of students who have their hands up too. Go ahead.
Hi. I say one thing is growing up in the home. Well, I'm from the South. And I never experienced racism until I went to Midwest. And I was at the age of 23. And I handle it very well because I was taught at home not to show that they got the best of you. So I didn't rebuttal. I was kind of shocked because I was never called the N-word before. That was like the first time I ever called was the N-word. And I never broke down, but when I did go into the bathroom and broke down, I was in my own space. And I talked to my grandmother, and you know, I understand that, you know, you're gonna come across people who's not gonna like you because of your skin color. But and being the only black person in some areas is very hard sometimes. It's hard to be the only black person in a white dominant workplace. So I understand where your daughter coming from, where you sit alone, you don't talk to nobody. I'm a type of person, I just usually stay in my office and just work and just, you know, but then I was antisocial, which I wasn't really antisocial. I was just keeping my space positive because I know how people can be so cruel. And I'm not the type to be fake with people either. I don't like fake people, and I'm not gonna be fake with nobody. If you don't like me, you don't like me. Oh, cool. I'm gonna keep my distance from you, but I'm gonna keep my eye on you also. So I say just you have to give your children affirmations and keep them positive, and you know think that you are worthy.
Mhm. Can I ask you a question, Lamont? Was
Yes.
there anything in the way that your parents or your family raised you, the way you were brought up, that you sort of felt were aware of during the times that you're describing, like your like strength that you were drawing on, or things that you think they could have done differently that would have been helpful?
You know what? I think I mean I you know I give great credit to my mom, dad, and my grandmother. They exposed me to different things, and when I was in that arena, I didn't feel uncomfortable when I was around my white peers because I experienced going to the ballet, you know, growing up, going you know going to the symphony, and you know, and I even had a boss tell me like, I didn't know you listened to opera. I'm like, well, yeah, I was raised up in it. I mean, there was some, you know, so she was like very shocked because I've never, and she said, I've never known a black person to listen to opera. I said, I was taught to listen to all genres of music. The only thing was not allowed in my house was rap. My mom didn't just she didn't like rap. So that's the only thing I didn't really get a genre for. But everything else, you know, I was exposed to. And kids can be cruel. I mean, I've been to private and public dominantly white, and you stick out because you're the black person. You know, I even had a teacher told me, I never forget, 11th grade English class, and she looked at me. She said, "What it like to be on welfare?" And I'm just like, why did she look at me like you know, because I'm the only black kid in the class that I am on welfare? And I'm thinking to myself, my mom is a nurse, my dad is an operation engineer for NASA, so how where did you get? I'm on welfare. So that was like very offensive. You know, I come that very offensive, but I didn't, you know, I told my mom about it. We talked about it. And you know, and I'm so glad that I had that dialogue with my mom, that she kept an open communication with me. So that's the best thing to do with your child, is to keep an open communication. Like, I feel like I could go to my mom. To this day, I feel like she's my best friend. Because I could talk to my mom about any and everything. She's not judgmental. You know, I think sometimes she would get shocked because I could tell her face, but she tried to play it off. But you know, she's like, you know, but that was the good thing of me growing up. It's like she had a safe haven for myself so I can fall. So if I did fall, I fall in her arms, and and then she boosts me right back up. And that's what you know, and I love, because I could call her, because I know my mom's gonna boost me up. You know, and I have those when I have those days, and to this day, you know, sometimes it's like, I don't know if I can make it. And she said, yes, you can. She said, you're resilient. You can persevere. You know, you know, it makes me smile. And then, you know, when my mom, I never forgot when my mom told me, she's like, the first time, I was like, I'm so proud of you. And that made me feel so good. It wasn't like, you know, I mean, you know, other people say, well, you know, you can give to, you know, giving is not what, I mean, I didn't mind, you know, getting, you know, the Jordans and everything, but the best thing I can remember is those things that me and my mom and my dad shared, and my grandmother, those things that I remember. It's not the clothes, it wasn't, you know, the jewelry and stuff like that. It was those little times like, oh my God, I remember. Until this day, I could feel talk to her, and I'm still not judged.
Right.
But like today, like you said, I read in on the internet with this, I never know, a 10-year-old girl, she committed suicide because she was being bullied by her classmate. And that just hurt my heart, for a black girl, 10 years old. Like, I didn't even know at 10 years old, I didn't know what suicide was. I'm like, my God, that just crushed me, because I'm like, for a 10-year-old child to say, you know, she don't want to live because students are being that mean, it's just very sad.
Wow.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you, Lamont. Kelvin, you had your hand up before?
So I'm not a biological parent. I am a godparent of an 8-year-old young lady. Um, and what I'm just like hearing from the conversation or just experiencing, like I don't desire to have personal children myself because I just feel it's just something that's very complex and something that I'm not willing to commit to at this time because I think it's a big commitment. And I think a lot of the times these problems are coming up because when you look at like our system structure, your family is the first system that you're exposed to. Family is a social system. And you know, with our educational module, we learn a lot about systems. And a lot of the times these systems are failing the children because the adults haven't worked out their own ideologies around these complex conversations. And that's essentially the problem. If I haven't worked out what prejudice looks like for me internally as an adult, or what racism looks like, if I haven't healed from the trauma that I've experienced from racism and prejudice, I project it in my household and my children absorb, and then they take it into the community. For me, it's really about holding parents more accountable to committing to working these issues and complex topics out within themselves before they pursue to have children. And that's one of the factors why I don't, because I don't want to create harm in an individual when these are things that I know I need to continually work out on myself. So people that are parents that are able to do it both simultaneously, I really, commend you because it's hard work. But a lot of the times what we're seeing is this, when the Black Lives Matter campaign started going through New York City, I took my goddaughter with me. We were masked up. Just because as a godparent, I'm not hold to the same restraints that her mom and father is. They have to provide, they have to say no, they have to do certain things. I feel like as a godparent, I'm about like the creative side, the spirituality side, enhancing certain things. So I wanted to introduce her to what the movement looks like in real time, even though it was dangerous, we were scared, we provided safety measures, but she needed to see that because it is a race war in America, and she's fairly light skinned. So sometimes she's like, well, girls say I'm not dark enough. And so now this becomes a conversation within the Black community of what light skin and dark skin looks like. So this is something that's being projected onto her now. I have a cousin who's a lesbian and they're married. They did artificial insemination and the donor was Caucasian. And that's like a huge issue for people in my family because they're like, why would you have a white donor? And you're a Black couple. Me personally, I don't have any say. I just explain to them they have to be realistic of what these two young girls are going to navigate the world as. They may have a mom that's both moms that are of color, but they do present fairly lighter. And so that's going to be an issue because already in community, people like they're acting Black, but their mom is Black. So how could they be acting? If anything, that is their culture. They're not acting, but because they present as Caucasian, you would assume. So these are just things that I just try to constantly tell them that they're going to have to tap into, into systems to help them get through this because they're going to experience a lot of trauma growing up. And I don't feel like they shouldn't have or they should have not did it. It's a choice. You know what I'm saying? I think the thought process on why they did it may be offensive to some people because they say, they wanted the baby to have a certain IQ. So I think the agency they dealt with, the issue with me with them is, so you guys only have
Alert from
candidates.
calendar.
You guys only
EVCO
have,
cabinet
I'm
meeting.
sorry, you guys only have candidates that are Caucasian descent that have high IQs. So you guys don't take time to find men of color that have IQs, that are educated with degrees and still could have been a donor. So the agency itself is prejudiced because we have Black men in America that are highly educated and scholars and doing the work and they're very intelligent. So that's like the way I feel I could weigh in on the conversation. And I will always go back to like, I just really would like to see more education all around the board, no matter race or creed for parents in general.
You're
Because
saying,
our,
go
yeah, our
ahead.
parents, if you really, being in community, most everyone's trauma is traced back to parents. It's always parents, because that's the first system that fails you, makes you, or break you.
a couple of things that are just some drawing out from what you said, Kelvin, for me, is one, you talk about being a godparent, right? And I think it's important to think about parenting as community and societal work, right? That we all have, we live together in a world, right? So we have godchildren or just friends who are children, or family in other ways, or we're just present in a world where we're making decisions about what our public education system should look like and what our healthcare system should look like. So parenting doesn't only mean biological parenting, and I think that's important. And also you're talking in different ways about a reflection process. And I think that what I liked about this book is it was so much about that exact thing, is this woman was reflecting in the context of being a parent, about the different kinds of systems she's runs up against, be it healthcare, be it religion, be it education. And I think that that's important for self, but just in general, but in terms of parenting, being reflective and intentional is a lot of, I don't know, the stakes of being intentional and reflective feel different to me in my own experience, but I think in terms of navigating these super complex things, that you brought that out, and it's kind of the theme of the book, I feel like. Greg, you're a parent of many daughters, right?
I have two biological daughters. My wife was an American Indian. I have a daughter who's extremely light with straight hair, and a daughter who's my complexion with straight hair. And the first thing I had to deal with them was, why are they so different? One is the spitting image of me. One is the spitting image of her mother. And there was the concept of, that's your sister? That can't be your sister. She's too light. She's almost white. She can't be your sister. My experiences overall is, I think human beings in general have a bias about something. We won't admit to it, but we do have a bias about something. We're raised that way. It's something we learn from our parents, society around us. Children have a natural curiosity about something they don't experience. If you take, I'm an example. I got bused to a all-white school when I was 13. And it was kind of the worst experience of my life. I wanted to be in school. They didn't want me there. So I had to fight to get in and then fight to go home. And I always thought, or my mother always said to me, it's because they don't know you. They don't know anything about you except what's been presented to them in the news. And it's always negative when it comes to being Black. Mm-hmm. So we don't want you in the neighborhood. We don't want you around. And it's the same curiosity kids have when it's like, oh, she's dark and she's got curly hair. And they automatically just think, I can touch this. Their parents have never talked about that. Most of the time, their parents have kept them away from that. So there is that natural curiosity. So when people sit back and go, they don't understand, or why are they being treated like that? That's what you're taught at home. Because you don't know this. Your parents probably don't know this. Because as a person of color, we're always separated. There's one community for us, another community for them. So until we actually start to mingle and intertwine, there's always going to be that curiosity, that bullying, the bragging about it, or just the picking on, because we don't know each other. I think it helps to communicate, but it also has to start at home. It has to be what your parents are teaching their children at a young age, starting with all of us being human beings.
Right.
It doesn't matter what color we are.
That's that's wonderfully true. If the world would only. Loretta, would you like to, is there anything that you're thinking about you feel like sharing?
Yeah, so I have two daughters, a 40-year-old and a 36-year-old. Growing up, one is I'm like one is dark like me, one is a little lighter. So, you know, they, in our own community, there's prejudice. My younger daughter, she speaks very proper. So when she's in the community, it's like, oh, you think you're white. But the thing about it is it does start at home. You have to reinforce in your children that there's differences in everybody. In race, in your own race. They also have to be exposed, like Greg said. You have to expose your children to different things. Like Lamont, they have to be exposed to different genres of music. They have to be exposed to the theater, expose them to everything. A lot of Black people don't know anything other than, if they was born in the Bronx, don't know anything other than the Bronx because they've never been anywhere. So they don't know anything else. And that, if you don't know, you just don't know. But once you know, you can do better. My grandson, one of my grandsons, he went to an all-white school. And he excelled better than when he went to a Black school. When he went to a Black school, they moved back to New York. He went to school in Harlem, he got picked on. But when he was in all-white school, he didn't. So it's like, it's reverse. It's only thing you can do is teach your children that they're special, educate them, let them know that you're there for them. They could speak to you about anything and everything. My parents were older when I was born. So I have 7 sisters and 1 brother, and I'm the baby. When my mother had me, she was 37. My father was in his 50s. So I had older parents, but I also they had the experience of dealing with all the situations that my sisters and I went through. So when it came to me, I guess it was a little easier. Me and my father talked about anything and everything. You have to let your children know that it's okay to come to you and speak about anything and everything. Because if they can't come to you, then they're going to go to somewhere else where they might not get the right information. So Adrian, you just keep telling your daughter that she's special. Keep telling her she's special. And let her know it's okay to be different, because everybody's different.
Right.
We're all different, even in our own race, we're all different.
Absolutely.
Everybody is unique. Everybody was born unique. And as long as once she realizes that she's unique and what's special about herself, then she'll start building that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Thank you, Loretta. Does anyone else have any thoughts? I have a question. And
I did want to make
Yeah.
a point. Listening, beginning with Adrian and then Wilhelmina's story about the girl who came in and it seemed like a suicidal event and all. What really strikes me is the fact that Adrian, in your case, your daughter is talking to you. And Lamont and Loretta, what you said about that open relationship with parents. I'm Venezuelan and I grew up in Pittsburgh. I went to a small Catholic school that was Irish Italian. I would often pass at Italian. I do have some Italian background, but there was also a lot of Hispanic bashing. It was a very closed community. And my sister and I would get a lot of it. And I remember I had a very good relationship with my mom, but it was so embarrassing to me. I never said it. We never talked about it. And it is something that sticks with you. So just the fact that they're speaking and I think is huge. Like that's wonderful. And what Lamont said and what Loretta said is proof of that.
Anyone else? I'm thinking throughout something that's been touched on, beginning with you, Adrian, is schools, and thinking about the kinds of choices that you want to make for your kids in terms of schools. Like, I'm curious about those of you who've said that you send your kids to majority white schools. About, sometimes it feels like a choice, sometimes it doesn't, right? Like, it's very complicated. But just in terms of making choices about weighing the different factors about what kind of school community you want your kid to be in, what are some thoughts about that?
I would like to say that I was fortunate, I was glad to go to a private school. Um, I was enriched. I've learned a lot. Even when I transitioned, because I begged my mom, I want to go to public school. But when I went to private school, she felt like public school was not gonna, I was not gonna get any, a lot out of it because, public system was not so good where I was from. So, if you want your child to get a good education, you either have to go private and, pay tuition. And I was fortunate and I was glad that I did experience. And I felt it was like a little bit better for me because I did learn a whole lot. And then when I transitioned to public school, I did stay on that course. Like, I want to still get good grades. My mom found a system where, of course, the white schools was much better than the black schools. So, and I was in that district where I went to a white school, and it was very enriching because like you could tell the difference between the white public school and the black public school because the white school offered more and it was like college geared towards going to college. So that was like, a little bit, better. But far as like, interacting with, kids, I wouldn't say difficult. But, when I did hang around the black kids, they're like, because, they already know, oh, you go to the updated school or and I hated that word, you think you're better than everybody. It's like, no, I just want to be more educated. And I say, I don't talk white, I'm educated. So I hated that term when they said, oh, you talk white. No, I'm just educated. And I'm so glad that my mom talked to me, have helped me, to see, different things. I didn't see it as like, oh, they was being racist, but I think it was not exposed to what I was exposed to. So I say find the best education play. I mean, for her, and she's gonna flourish. I mean, I feel like I flourish for having the experience. So and having a good education. And I mean, I thank my mom and dad every day because they didn't have to put me in a private school to get a good education. So, I appreciate them for that.
Thank you.
With my daughter, I don't think we had a choice. The area that I live in is the school systems, there are not that many African American students. The only thing I can do now is just, I'm teaching my daughter to be able to adapt in whatever environment she's in. Whether she goes to an all black school, if she's in this all white school now, I want her to be able to adapt because like it was mentioned a few times, everybody may not accept you. The black kids may not accept her if I take her out and put her in an all black school just from, her being here. She's not being accepted here, but the bottom line is I want her to be able to adapt and say, this is me, whether I'm in a black school or white school, I'm still gonna continue my education, which she's very, very in tune with her work. And I think the positive that I'm getting from this is she goes, Mommy, I don't even need friends. I just want to focus on work in school. She's all into gymnastics. She was like, I want scholarships. She's like, Mommy, I just want to be a doc. Like, she's like focused, her tunnel vision. She's so focused. So I think that is kind of a good thing when she tells me, oh, I have a play date. I'm like, no, you don't. Play date with who? You got to focus on school. But I just want her to just be able to adapt wherever she goes. If I decide to move out of New York and she goes in this all black area, I want her to still be able to just, be her, be who she is, and pretty much it.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
For school and life.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else on this subject or anything else that's sort of at all coming to mind that feels related?
I have a question about schools. Adrian, in your case, is the school doing anything about this? Does the school know?
And when she was in second grade, I did have a meeting with the principal. And like I said, he kind of brushed it under the rug, and I kind of like joked. I'm like, okay, listen, if my daughter comes home and tell me that at lunch, they like pull on the back of her hair. I'm like, when I tell my daughter to turn around and hit someone right then and there, they go, Miss Galvani, you're promoting bullying. We don't want her to do that. I said, okay, so when does it stop? Then my daughter's coming every day and the kids are behind her, pulling on her hair because her hair is different. I asked the teacher to address it, where there can be someone in the lunchroom, somebody in the class to address it. Now I'm with you, the principal, the head of the school, and you're telling me that, oh, this is kids being kids. But now I'm telling you, it's enough already. I'm giving my daughter the okay. If someone pulls your hair, to turn around, pop their hand, you say, listen, stop touching my hair. But then I was in the hot seat as a parent because I was promoting bullying. And they was like, well,
Wow.
then now it's going to a whole nother level, which I didn't think at the time it was. So this whole bullying thing, I think that they taking this all, every little thing is bullying, So I didn't like the response I got from the school. So I had to talk with my daughter. I told her, I said, when this comes to a point where I reach every avenue, and I even had to tell him, should I call the news in here? And like, this is what we need to do. And I think it's sad that, schools don't like the attention. So they try to brush things under the rug and just be like, let's not make a big deal out of this, And to me, it is a big deal because something this small can snowball into something big. And I don't want to be that 10-year-old who's talking about suicide. I don't want that, because she don't want to go to school. So it's something as simple as saying, the principal can say, okay, let me get the teacher in here. Let me get the whoever needs to be involved. Let's sit down and let's address this issue, and then address the class.
There's whatever like effect that has, but I'm being struck with the school itself. But I'm being struck by like whatever happens, the model you're showing for your daughter of like, this is a big deal, and I'm taking it very seriously, and it's not just about what you should say, right? Like that stays with her regardless of what happens.
Right.
School.
It's interesting because the dialogue between her and the principal.
I'm sorry?
And the dialogue between you and the principal and the reference to bullying, isn't pulling her hair bullying?
That's what I said, well, what is that? He said, no, that's just kids being curious, and that's just what kids do. He goes, I was a kid. When I liked the girl, I would go pull her hair. I would poke her in the side. I'm like, but that didn't make it okay. It doesn't make it okay now. So you're telling me my daughter should accept them pulling on the back of her hair? And he just he said he didn't like the fact that I was promoting bullying and telling my daughter to physically hit a student in the class, and I was just like, oh, we got issues here. This is crazy. So I give my daughter the green light. I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, you're not going to sit there and let people pull your hair. If anything comes after that, then you call me and I'll deal with it. And that's just a fight that I'm willing to fight for my daughter, like any other parent would, But they quit. They think that they'll I don't know. He wanted me to back off and say, okay, all right, I don't want bullying. Then all right, let's not do that. But I didn't. I stood my ground and say, well, you know what? My daughter's gonna do what she needs to do. And I got up and I walked out of the office. So I don't know. The school systems, I'm still trying to figure that out. I don't get that.
Yeah, either do.
It's the culture of that environment. You gotta keep it very small, and especially if it's only one child complaining, one parent complaining.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyone else? We have a few more minutes. Any closing thoughts on this subject?
Kate, does the book that we're using to start this conversation, does it reference anything about the communities where children are raised, or the number of women who never complete their birth, or miscarriages and so on and so forth?
Well, I don't remember whether it does, but it is a good segue. So I don't remember whether it's really, it did not strike me from reading the book, and this was a while ago that I read it now, so if they talked much about the inequities of Black maternal health and the like, but we are, as a library, and Natalia can talk a little bit about it, are working on an initiative around that issue. And so I hope that everyone will stay tuned for some conversations and programming and a leadership group, if you're interested, around addressing that sort of specific issue of motherhood in terms of the health inequities and the mortality rate. And is there anything you want to add to describe that better?
Just to add, the actual figure, I think, is that Black women are 7 times more likely to suffer mortality in sorry, I'm not speaking well, to have issues in pregnancies than white women. And it's just like a staggering difference. So this is going to be a year-long project, and we are going to be starting, we have an activity for the beginning of April 11th to the 17th is Black Maternity Health Week nationally. So there's going to be a lot of information. So we are going to be, I know Lamont and Adrian already came to one of these sessions. We're going to be doing little sessions where we're introducing this project to students, and we'll be getting that information out soon.
So thank you. And Kelvin and Wilhelmina, if you're both there, this really intersects with stuff that I know you guys are both active in being health or sort of community organizing work. Kelvin, I know you do a lot of. So both of you should really, we would love to have you as part of these conversations and this work as it unfolds. So we have a couple minutes. So that was actually, I don't know if that was intentional, but it was really helpful, Greg. So thank you. And I really appreciate this conversation, as always, just the genuine sharing and talking about this important stuff of life and how I'm always so struck by, people share their personal stories and their experiences, and then there's society and the way society works. And it's just such a reminder how very true it is that the personal is political, always. Often. So I thank you. I can close this out unless anyone has any last thing that they want to share.
I'm very happy you guys are willing to have these discussions.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So stay tuned for next month's about what's our alumna's name? Miranda.
Oh, Melinda. Yeah, Melinda Roscoe.
Melinda Roscoe. That's why I tried not to say it, because I was getting her name wrong. Melinda Roscoe is alumni of MCNY, and she does really cool work around leading book clubs in these like really elaborate, like well orchestrated ways, really interesting books. And so she's going to be talking about that work, and specifically this book club that sounds like it's been going on for a long time, and it's a really huge membership called Black Women Read Political Books, I think. And so she's going to be addressing the intersection of reading and politics and being a Black woman, and wherever that conversation goes, and then maybe doing a book club with MCNY students over the intersection. So that's next month.